Shadow of Truth with your host Rory Hall from thedailycoin.org and Dave Kranzler from investmentresearchdynamics.com. And today is Monday, September the 12th, 2016. And this is the regular Monday update. And we certainly appreciate everybody being here. Concern is these banks that are buying all these mining shares.
Why?
Since when do I trust the banks? Especially large, too big to jail banks.
Well, but I mean, what are they going to do with the mining shares?
Well, what if they scrape all the profits that they want off of them and then dump them back into the market?
Someone will buy them.
Yeah, but that's, right now there's three banks that have $1 billion each.
I know. Yeah, I've seen the reports. I'm not concerned about it. I think I don't. I mean, yeah, you can read conspiracy theory into it, but you can do that into anything. I think. I find it strange that central banks are buying equities at all, but
yes. I mean, they're loaded up on the FANGs, and now they're starting to load up on mining shares.
Well, they're buying the banks to keep the banks aloft.
Oh, you mean the mining shares?
Oh, I thought you said they loaded up on banks, and now they're loading up on mining shares.
No, they're loading up on the FANGs, the FANG.
Oh, the FANGs. Well, I don't know that all of them are. I know the Swiss National Bank has been, and my guess is they're probably doing it with the Fed's blessing or the Fed's help.
Yeah, with our money.
Well, I mean, technically, the Fed's money is not our money. The Fed's a private entity, so if they just, they print money and they give it to the Swiss bank, I don't know. I mean, here's the problem: the whole thing is so opaque. I mean, we could just sit here and come up with 20 different scenarios that are going on, and none of them could be right.
Well, that's true. Like I said, it just always whenever the big banks start do anything and do it on a large scale, it always is it's kind of a concern to me. I don't trust them. All of them should be in prison in the first place. Their their criminal operations should be shut down and blackballed from ever being able to do business again. Their entire family should be blackballed from being able to conduct any business. And so, like I said, whenever they get involved in anything like this, buying equities or buying resource stocks, whatever it is that they're doing, and they do it on a large scale, that's always a concern.
What are the central banks that are buying the mining stocks again? It's Bank in Norway.
The Swiss National and Deutsche.
You mean the Bundesbank?
Bundesbank.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I just, I don't know. I mean, what are they going to do with them? So they buy the mining shares. What are they going to do? They're going to take over the mining companies, or are they going to flush them out into the market to try and manipulate the stocks? I mean, I don't know. I don't know that there can be, as long as there's always a bid for the mining shares, and I don't think they're trying to disrupt the markets in the shares.
Well, they haven't yet. So, I
mean, who knows? Again, for me, it's just like, okay, so the central banks are buying the mining shares. Who cares? I mean, I see here that Bill Fleckenstein says he thinks it's interesting and it will cause others to follow their lead. And, I mean, I think that's as reasonable a conclusion as any.
Like I said, I mean, I'm not saying that I necessarily see anything negative well, I do see something negative because I don't trust them. I mean, like I said, I just they lost my trust a long time ago, and so.
Well, I hear you. Today? I just here's the thing, at least these central banks are disclosing, what they're buying on their balance sheet. We don't know what the Fed here is buying because they have so many off-balance sheet entities set up. I mean, we have no idea what's going on at the Fed here. The Fed could be buying mining shares too, for all we know. I'm not saying they are, and I doubt they are, but you never, who knows? I mean, we don't know.
Well, what's on your mind, Dave?
I see one guy here says that he thinks it's bad that that the central banks are buying the mining shares. It's the same guy who says the central banks are out there with a plan to demolish gold and silver again. And now he's saying they're buying up the shares so they can dump them into the market and move it in. That's not going to happen. I mean, if a central bank's accumulating a big block of mining shares, and it's a company, especially if it's a company that a bigger company would like to buy, and the central bank starts selling them, they're going to have people knocking on their door. Hey, don't sell them in the market. We'll pay you a premium for your block.
Okay.
So I think it's interesting that these central banks are buying the mining shares. I think it's easy to come up with negative conspiracy theories about what their motives are, but I just don't think. Again, when I saw first time I saw the story, I was just like, oh, well, that's interesting. On to the next. So, and I think it is different than the Swiss bank loading up on the FANG stocks. I think it's a lot different than that, and I think that the Swiss bank is doing that to help the Fed prop up the S&P. I mean, if you look at the Zero Hedge had the graph, I don't know, a couple weeks ago where it showed the performance of the FANG stocks this year, or maybe it was the top 6 performing stocks, which mostly happen to be FANG stocks, versus the rest of the S&P. And those 5 or 6 stocks were basically the reason why the S&P is being held up this year. Otherwise, the S&P would be negative.
Well, wasn't that the case last year as well?
It might be. I can't remember. I mean, we know the Fed's in there holding up the stock market. We know they're in there, and we know that they're probably the most likely reason why they're in there holding it up, because if they weren't in there holding it up, it would probably have a massive sell-off, a sell-off that would probably cause systemic collapse in this country.
Well, and which brings me back to Fisher. Back in April or May, whenever it was, when he came out and said that and admitted that the Fed had done the wealth front load effect, or front loaded this wealth effect, and that the market now needed to go through a digestive period. And I haven't seen the digestive period show up at this point, because to me what that means is that things are going to start slowing down and start moving out. Because whenever I think of a digestive system, and we know where that's going, So, I mean, that's what I think of. I mean, and that's the only thing that I could think when he said, the market's getting ready to unload a bunch of this front-loaded wealth effect. I mean, and I haven't seen it, and it's cause for concern for me, But what do you think about Hillary's collapse yesterday?
We'll get to that in a second, because what you said about Fisher is actually kind of interesting. I mean, you could interpret it 2 ways. You could say, okay, well, what he meant is they need, the market is going to go through a sideways consolidation period here until the front loading effect that the Fed did, until the underlying economy and system grows into this front loaded effect. That was one interpretation that I had of what he said. But now that you mentioned, and again, the other interpretation I had was similar to yours, where it was a politically and socially correct way for him to say the market is going to and should hit the bed.
Pretty much.
Right. So I think I don't know. Again, it's one of those things where I think he basically was clearly he's glad he's not part of the Fed system anymore, and it's why he stepped aside. And what I found the most interesting about it was when he was part of the Fed system, head of the Dallas Fed, he was giving us the party line, hey, the economy's fine, we need to raise interest rates, blah, blah, blah. And then when he steps away from the Fed, he lets his tenure there die down a little bit. And then he comes out and he says, you know what? The Fed's causing a lot of problems. In so many words is basically what he said with that speech. The Fed has caused problems, and, there's going to be consequences. And then I found it also interesting that it was revealed that he owns a lot of gold. And to me,
physical gold.
Right. To me, it doesn't matter what comes out of these guys' mouths. It's, what comes out of their wallet and where are they putting it? And that's a big statement for him, a silent statement that he's making by spending money on fiat, converting fiat Fed notes into gold.
Yep.
So, I had one other thought, and then we can turn to HRC on the central banks. And these are like Norway. Who cares? It's a one-off central bank. Norway. I mean, is Norway even? I don't even think they're part of the euro. So I mean, it's like and it's an oil-based economy. So maybe their idea is, hey, we own all this other stuff that's connected to the fiat system. Let's buy some stuff and put it on our balance sheet that's going to be negatively correlated with the fiat currency-based markets, which in a way mining stocks are, but in a way they're not. I mean, they're derivatives of gold and silver. So maybe some of these central banks are saying, hey, let's hedge our bets.
And that very well could be it. That's exactly what they're doing is just using it as a hedge.
Right. I mean, I think if it was revealed that the Fed owned a lot of mining stocks, then you could say, there's bad intent there. But some of these other central banks, I mean, Norway, no one even thinks about Norway other than, good cross-country skiers, good, and oil, good smoked salmon.
That's true.
My family's from Bergen, Norway, and I don't even think about Norway that often.
Oh, my goodness.
So the Hillary Clinton, the Hillary thing, I think is really interesting because when you looked at those videos yesterday, I mean, even in the non-believers even the people who believed her shtick on Kimmel, that, allegations that she's sick are conspiracy theories, even those people had to look at that video and just go, wow, something's wrong.
Something is wrong because
you're right. And then it's like 3 hours after that video goes viral, her handlers come out and say, oh, well, she's been battling pneumonia since Friday. Well, I thought she had allergies last week, and that's why she was hacking in
Cleveland.
Yeah. So clearly there's big problems with her health.
Big problems. I mean, the thing is that, and there was an article, I believe, that the AntiMedia published, and Zero Hedge picked it up. I can't remember exactly who originally published it, but what they showed were some tweets that had went out prior to her collapse, showing her in either close contact with people or touching them or, handling other, just regular people. And it's like, well, if you've got pneumonia and you knew you had pneumonia, then why are you doing this? And so it doesn't, once again, I mean, when you start looking at all the pieces to the puzzle, it's like, well, this story really is not holding a lot of water, at all. Which is it? I mean, you can't have allergies on Wednesday and pneumonia on Sunday. Not at my house anyway.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. The cover-ups are becoming, hokier and hokier. There's one of my subscribers sent me a really interesting write-up on it, and in some ways it reads a little bit like Jim Willey, but it's not. I mean, I actually agree with everything he says in here. as being a possibility. And it's really well written, and I got permission from him this morning to put it up as a guest post. He's posted before. His name's Stuart Doherty, and he used to be published frequently, like in the mid 2000s, early and mid 2000s, on 321 Gold and a lot of the other alternative media aggregator sites.
Okay.
And I think this blog post is really worthwhile reading. I mean, you might not agree with everything he puts forth in there, but I think a lot of it has a lot of validity. And what he thinks is that essentially the deep state is in the process of pulling her out of the game.
Well, now it's interesting that that's said, because there were a couple of articles floated this morning about Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden stepping in and taking her place. And I find it a little hard to believe. I mean, we're very close. I mean, what do we got? 50 days, 60 days left to the
whatever it is. Yeah.
I mean, it's close.
It's not 60 days. It's less than 60.
That's what I was thinking. But I know it's a very, very short window until November the 8th. And you know, when I first saw everything happening and unfolding yesterday, all I could think of was your comments a week or so ago, or a couple of weeks ago, about her power addiction and crawling to the heroin cell to get her next fix, and that she would do anything to do that. And we are clearly seeing that play out. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, if this woman is walking around with pneumonia to the point of collapsing on the sidewalk, and if it hadn't have been for a handler on her left and one on her right, she would have been face first on that sidewalk.
Oh yeah, when
she steps no off question.
The curb, when she steps off the curb, it looks like her legs go to buckle up like she's stone drunk.
Yes. I mean, her body was not able to hold her, period. And that was very clear in they didn't show that this morning on Good Morning America. They cut it off before her absolute collapse. They just showed her wiggling a little bit, and then they didn't take it all the way to the end. And I mean, it's very clear that if there hadn't been a person on both sides of her, she would have been eating asphalt.
Oh yeah, and then the Secret Service guys that were around, they closed in and closed off any kind of
visual
direct view of the situation. Yes. I mean, they covered it up quickly,
very quickly.
Yeah, it brings up a point here. I mean, it just shows you how incredibly selfish she is. She's walking around. If it's pneumonia, she's possibly infecting other people. And I don't know what the contagion period is for pneumonia, but she shouldn't be out shaking hands and being around people if she's got pneumonia. What the heck is that all about?
Exactly.
And I don't know. Maybe pneumonia is not contagious. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I've never had
me neither.
But
sounds serious though.
It just shows you that if her health is really this bad, she should just step aside.
Or at least take a break. I mean, just say, "Hey, I'm sick and I'm taking a week off."
Right. She should cause a national. Well, that'll sink her chances, because no one wants a president who's potentially ill. This guy's theory, Stuart Doherty, he said he thinks that ultimately there will be an election crisis and the election will be postponed. And I did a little bit of research before our show here to find out under what circumstances federal elections can be rescheduled. And as it turns out, it's not that easy to do, but Congress has the constitutional authority to set election dates.
Oh, no. That's been overridden by the Unpatriot Act. The president has the power to do that.
Are you sure about that?
Yep, under a quote national emergency.
All right, well there you go. There's your answer right there. I couldn't find that specific. I was looking to see I was thinking either way, Obama would just sign an executive order because whenever he wants to do something that Congress won't let him do, he just signs an executive order, just like his predecessor did.
It's already done. It's like I said, it's in the Patriot Act. They built it in.
Okay, well there you go. So maybe Stewart is right then that they're going to let this play out in a way that will let the elections be postponed because I don't buy the Biden Bernie Sanders theory because I don't think
No,
Bernie Sanders is electable.
I don't either, and I think
There's
that
Biden has so much dirt on him. I mean, everyone thinks he's like this pretty boy, pro-union, good guy from Delaware, and the fact is, he's probably as equally as corrupt as Hillary is. Only he's just gone about it in a more low-key way. I mean, I remember when the U.S. went in and overthrew the guy in Ukraine, and then all of a sudden the U.S. energy companies started going in there and claiming land, and Biden's son was on the board of one of those energy companies.
yep.
And so, I mean, I just think Biden, and I think that's why Biden never ran in the first place because he knows too much dirt would come out on him.
Could be.
So I don't know. It's interesting to see how this will play out, and I do think it's a possibility that the election will be postponed. We might be stuck with Obama for a lot longer than we wanted.
It very well could be that he could serve a third term, and
That's right.
that idea has been floated
unless,
more than once in the past few months.
unless they just told him, keep your upper body loose because you're going to be playing a lot of golf over the next 4 years while we run the country under your name.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So, and it is interesting, and Stewart in this article points out that the polls are all obviously fake,
Yes.
and the deep state knows that Trump has a much bigger lead over Hillary Clinton than is advertised by the polls that are published by the mainstream media.
Oh, his numbers are huge in comparison. I mean, the reality, and the thing is that if you look at any kind of a live polling situation, and it doesn't matter where it's at, whether it's ultra conservative, ultra liberal, it doesn't matter. I mean, they were trying to, the mainstream media and the celebrities in Hollywood have been supporting Hillary all along the way. And there's this show that my wife watches every night, comes on Monday through Friday every night, and they were attempting to do a live poll for their audience. This is a extremely liberal television program, and they only did it twice because the two nights that they did it, Trump was out in front of Hillary at like 70-30.
Wow.
Both nights. And like I said, I can't even begin to tell you how liberal this program is. I mean, it's ridiculous. I hate it. Just to give you an idea, I hate it with an unholy passion. So they stopped. They dropped that program. They were going to do it every night, to pump up Hillary, to keep Hillary this was going to be a free ad for her every night during the show. Didn't work. It did not work. And just like that ABC, whether it was fake or real, or whether it was ABC in conjunction with ABC or not, it was an online live poll. Hillary was crushed in that polling. Crushed to the tune of 75% to 25-30% for Hillary. I mean, it was stunning, to say the least. So I mean, if you look at that's two situations that I'm aware of, and I'm sure there's plenty of other ones out there, because you can't fake that. You cannot fake.
It's interesting, and I have a friend who, it's kind of been my feeling also that at the end of the day, when people, when they answer a poll, and even if the polls are bona fide, and I think they're probably fudged, a lot of people might not admit to voting for Trump, especially if they're a registered Democrat. But in reality is they're going to vote for Trump because if you're paying any attention to what's going on with her and the Clinton Foundation and all the other stuff, I mean, I just don't see how anyone can consciously support her.
Really, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, I don't see how, if you have half a brain cell that functions and you have paid attention to 10 minutes of any news anywhere on Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump for the past 6 months, there's no way that you could vote for her in good conscience. I mean, it would be impossible. I mean, yeah, there's some people that are going to vote the party line regardless. I mean, you put a gun to their head and they still say, I'm voting Democrat, period.
It's either they'll vote Democrat or they can't vote for Trump. Well, if you're going to vote because you're voting against Trump, write someone else in or don't vote.
Yeah.
Because you're not fulfilling the spirit of why you're voting. You're not voting to keep someone out of office. You're voting to put the person who represents your values into office.
Yes. Could be Mickey Mouse.
And if you can't make that choice between the two of them, don't vote. I haven't been able to make that choice really since 1988 and probably since 1984, but I haven't voted since 92 because after that election, I figured it out. I'm not voting for or against anyone. I'm voting because I think it's my right to vote. Well, I'm not voting anymore because I don't trust or believe in any of these people. And I don't believe in the system anymore.
System is flawed. System is definitely broken.
Oh, it's destroyed.
It's an illusion.
Yep, exactly.
The system
we got to end
is
on
an
a good
illusion.
note. What's a good note to end on?
Well, it's bright and sunshiny here. It's beautiful. It's about 70 degrees. Perfect fall day.
Same here.
The Volunteers of Tennessee won. The Titans of Tennessee lost. Just another perfect football weekend.
All the Colorado football teams won. CSU, CU, the Broncos obviously Thursday night won, and we got the same thing here. Perfect fall, mid-70s today, no humidity, not many clouds in the sky, and I'll be inside working.
Exactly. Yeah, if I was a drinking man, I'd be sitting out on the porch right now with a cold one.
Dude, it's only 10:30 there.
And your point is?
Yeah, I hear you. It's 5:30 somewhere in the world.
That's exactly right. I just pretend like I'm hooking up with Alistair for in England.
That's right. Get him on Skype. Cheers, mate.
Oh my goodness. Well, I guess that's a good spot to end.
It's as good as any. Look forward to Thursday's show because this week should be interesting.
Should be an interesting week. All right, dude. I guess I'll talk to you then.
Yep. Catch you later.